Thank you very much. It's good to be with my friends from UNT and other expats, Jason. So what we're doing at UT Arlington is an initiative called the Maverick Advantage, and it's composed of five distinguishing activities. And the underlying purpose of this is to try to help students articulate what it is they're getting out of the courses that they're taking. And so that as they're going out for interviews and so forth, they can really say, this is how I applied what I learned to a particular problem, or how I developed a certain skill that might be transferable into the workplace. And so the idea is there's five distinguishing activities: career development, community engagement, global engagement, leadership development, and undergraduate research. And so the idea is that students, if they complete any three of these across their courses, they get the Maverick Advantage distinction when they graduate. And so there's also an initiative I've been involved in to sort of help faculty members understand these different five areas and how they might infuse that into their coursework. And so to practice what I preach, I've developed what I call a Google Earth Web virtual tour project. And so this is in my introductory human geography course. Students work in teams, so an important dimension of this Maverick Advantage is that students are engaged in teamwork, and they sort of understand working through those kinds of teamwork issues, and how that applies to their futures in the workforce. And so importantly, for the purposes of human geography, I make an emphasis on the idea of rich spatial information. And so I'm trying to get them to think about ways that we represent the human geography of the world, different forms of data, but also the ways in which photos, videos, styled place marks, 3D views, street views, digitized features, a baby GIS to kind of think about the ways that we represent the world cartographically. And so the structure of the assignment is they have 10 destinations in the tour that essentially, most of these parallel the topics of the course. So population, human environment, social, cultural, political, agriculture and rural, economic, and urban geography are the main areas. I give them a wild card, so if there was one topic that they really thought was particularly interesting, and then I also ask them to think about the future of their assigned country. What are some particular issues that might transcend these various human geography subdisciplinary boundaries? And importantly, I ask them to always think about, you can only do one destination for, say, population geography. So think about what it is that's most interesting about your country that you're assigned. What is the topic, given all of the concepts that I talk about in the lectures and so forth? What is it about your country that you want to represent as particularly interesting or unique? So they're thinking about representation, what the data show them in terms of what's important here geographically, and then how they should go about representing that. So in teamwork, I think it's incredibly important to assign roles. And so I sort of wrote job descriptions also to kind of get them thinking about, you know, job opportunities and how geographic skills and knowledge might apply to things that they might be doing in their careers. So one is a project manager who's essentially kind of the team lead. And so I have this description for them, and then say, if you are this taking on this role, the leadership development component of Maverick Advantage would fit very well for you. I have what I call the spatial information specialist who maybe is focused on career development. And so here you're thinking about managing the technology needs of your team, helping them with the tech expertise, designing the tech infrastructure for communication and sharing of data. Someone who serves as the global competence expert, who I essentially have as someone who's who's making sure that there are a variety of perspectives and worldviews and global issues that are represented, and that the team is, focused on cultural appreciation and respect for others, that they're not stereotyping countries that they are investigating, and that this is also an important aspect of geographical knowledge and skills. So, important to the project and important to the Maverick Advantage approach is that they're doing reflection on their, because the idea again is that they're able to articulate what it is they're getting out of this. It's not just an assignment I have to do to check a box in this course, but it's something that is applicable beyond the course and beyond the subject area. So the structure I've adopted for reflections is, I sort of summarize this for them as what, gut, so what, and now what. And so the what has them talk about what they've done to contribute. And this gives those who are anxious about teamwork an opportunity to say, here's what I did, here's how I contributed. And it also gives me a little insight to those who might be slacking a bit in their team project. I tell them it's really important to check your gut, to think about what kind of attitudes, emotions, feelings, those affective dimensions of, really have an effect on your learning, have an effect on your approach to things. And so almost inevitably, they say at the beginning, I hated the idea of doing a team project. I really don't like group work. I don't want to do this. I'm worried about my team. I'm anxious about having to present this. And very quickly, and I love this, they start saying, it's actually working out better than I thought. My team's really coming together. We're becoming friends. We communicate. I realize now I can get in front of the class and do a presentation, and I'm not quite so scared about it. So I get them to think about, what have you learned about yourself in this project? Then I ask them to, the so what is, what are the implications for geography? How did you apply concepts that we're looking at in class, or data models or approaches to geography to your assigned country? What kinds of information or knowledge about the world are you gaining as you apply the conceptual knowledge of human geography to a specific space on the globe? And then the next steps always kind of get them thinking about, well, now what? What do you need to do next? What's your plan? How are you going to continue this project and continue to be successful? So I have them do, I think there's 4 of those. And the first semester or 2 I did this, I made it sort of a semester-long project where they did their entire presentation at the very end of the semester. And I had some kind of in-class times for them to work on it and talk about it, and I would sort of come around and answer questions for them. But I realized that, like always, they wait until the end to really start getting things together. So this semester, I'm having them do 4 presentations during the semester. This also deals a bit with the anxiety problem of getting in front of, I've got 40 students in this class, and so some of them are terrified to stand in front of the class and talk. And so the very first one, it was one destination. What's your representation of the population geography of your country? There's 4 of you. You've got 3 minutes. Each of you needs to say something about what you came up with. And if all you do is explain, say, the population pyramid that you found for your country, that's great. You can talk for 30 seconds. And so gets them stepping into the water a little bit and becoming comfortable with presenting. And that's another thing that comes across in their reflections. They begin to feel, after the second time when they do, this past presentation was on human-environment interaction and cultural geography. And so then they had 5 minutes per team. And so that has worked out well so far this semester, and something I'll kind of continue to do. So here's an example of one of the tours that was done last semester. And so the GoogleEarth Web interface I kind of like. There's a nice couple of tutorials for them to use. It creates this kind of story map approach. And so this is their introductory slide, and then they, can zoom in. Let me see if I can move that out of the way. There we go. So the structure is there's a destination here that they zoom into on Google Street View. They've got space up here in the upper right corner to include photos, data, graphics that they find. And so, for example, they looked up the population growth rate over time. Um, they found, of course, we talk about population pyramids and how to interpret this and what's going on with the demographics of this population. And they can include videos. And so they also have a little space down here for a descriptive, um, you know, description of the space and what we're seeing here, and space for them to list their sources. So here's, they do population. We zoom on out and look at human environment interaction. Um, we talk about biodiversity hotspots and so forth. And so one of the possibilities is to look for a space where there's a biodiversity hotspot. What's going on there? What data do you find? Maps that you can find and so forth. So thinking about ways to represent this topic in their specific country.